I think in order to understand what I'm trying to do in general, but especially in the recent buildings I've been lucky enough to be the architect for in New York, in Manhattan, one has to understand that I grew up in the city, in Brooklyn. And to me, the skyline of Manhattan seen from the subway train going into Manhattan was one of the most remarkable things imaginable.
Architecture is a result of a process of asking questions and testing them and reinterrogating and changing in a reiterative way. It's a way of thinking and exploring and inventing and making and participating in the world. And we do it within, we concretize things. We make them physical. We bring them into life in physical form.
The city is made up of background buildings and foreground buildings, and now here echoing the observations of my teacher, Paul Rudolph, who said, that modern architects were great at making one-off buildings that would stand by themselves and celebrate themselves, but they had not learned, and we still haven't learned, modernism hasn't, how to make background buildings, how to frame streets, how to create a Central Park West as a gigantic articulated wall of structures, not a series of twisting, turning, isolated things. I mean, we have just a lot of silly buildings being built now, in my opinion. A building should not look like Lady Gaga.
I think for young architects, it's important, A, to care, because if you don't care, it doesn't matter. B, to realize that we're not here to build for other architects. We're here to build for all of humankind in a way, and we're here to accommodate life and work of so many different people from so many different backgrounds. So that first of all, we really need to care about the people we are designing for, understand what their dreams and desires and priorities are, and then we have to use that understanding as the driving force of the work we put forward. Because the second we know what questions that are important, then all we have to do is answer them.
The High Line was a piece of obsolete industrial infrastructure in a part of Manhattan that was totally forsaken. And the administration that preceded Bloomberg as mayor wanted to demolish it because all of the property owners around felt that it would increase their property values if it was destroyed. There's a group of very young people, it was a ground-up activist project, realized that maybe just turning the High Line into a public park could be something that would be a catalyst for the growth of that part of the city.
The building on top is actually incredibly simple. It's just a box. Well, we kind of pushed it and took a few pieces out, but then the bottom breaks and it's dynamic and it's vibrant. And it's where you want that vibrancy on the street. And it's very purposeful, and it's in contrast, it's in dialogue to the foundation building. It was built in 1850. Stone, heavy, opaque, right? It's everything opposite that. It's light and transparent, and et cetera, right? And so that's where the energy takes place, and then we lift the skin off. Well, and then the skin moves, and it gets soft. That's what we can do today. It's an opportunity, working with both the invention of form through digital environment and through the production of the result of that physically through its relationship to the builder. In this case, the people that made the skin. There's a direct relationship, so we can do that, right? And we can give it a something that'll really locate it at the end of the 20th century, for sure.
We were really fascinated by New York from plus 30 feet. And there you see all the unintended things. You see the blank party walls. You see, of course, the train was depositing meats and foodstuff and light industrial to loading docks. So you see these loading docks and garage doors up at 30 feet. You see tracks going into bricked up buildings. You see smokestacks that you would never see inside of alleys. You see car lifts. You see cars lifted at 30 and 40 feet that you would, like how do you experience that otherwise? You see billboards of underwear ads, you know, huge, and you're very close to them. You see into windows and things that, again, things that you're not supposed to see. And that's the beauty of the High Line, is that it wasn't really designed, those buildings weren't designed to be seen from the High Line.
Some years later, when they decided to have the competition, I was called by the head of the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation, said, Mr. Libeskind, how would you like to be a juror for the competition? And I said, oh my God, this is the most fantastic thing, to be able to be a juror on this incredibly important competition. I said, of course, it's a privilege. So few jurors. And then I discovered subsequently I had a very big conflict. I had a big event that was promised for some years in Toronto, and I called and I said, can we change the hour of the jury meeting? Because there's no way I can make it, because I've been committed. And they said, no, we can't even change the hour. You've got to be at this hour or you cannot be on the jury. And I was so crestfallen. And then the voice on the other side said, well, if you're not on the jury, maybe you can participate in the competition. And that's when I first got the idea, oh my God, I can do the competition. I'll participate in the competition. That's how it happened.
Designing this building was quite challenging, as there was no actual site when we arrived. The World Trade Center towers had fallen, the site had been cleared of debris, and the bedrock, which sits about 10 to 15 meters below us, was the only thing that was available to us. None of the skyscrapers that you see today existed. Their designs had not been published. So in a sense, it was a non-site without ground to stand on. So we had to imagine how this building would exist 10 years in the future once other things had been more readily established.
That day when the decision was to be announced, the New York Times had a big headline saying another team had won the competition. Huge headline across the first page of the New York Times, on top, in large letters. And then I had a call, very early in the morning. A call said, can you come down to Lower Manhattan, because the governor and the mayor want to see a couple of things. They want to see your project, and they want to see. The headline was already, they won. So I said, what the hell am I going down to, to go? It was too early even to call anybody from the team. I unrolled a few drawings, put them on the wall. The second team was going by, and they went like this. How does it feel to be a loser? And I said nothing. And 20 minutes later, the governor and mayor came out. I had unrolled the drawings. They said, what's the project about? I said, 5 minutes. I said, thanks. Went back to our hotel, because we had living in Berlin at that time. Packing, going back to Berlin. We've obviously lost the competition. It's been announced. It's all the press. At about 5:30 in the evening, a call comes. My wife picks it up and says, it's for you. Lower Manhattan Development Corporation. I said, what for? Mr. Libeskind, you won the competition.
We had many thoughts about this site, but several things held true throughout the entire time of design and planning, which was about 5 to 6 years. One of them was that we wanted to create a very horizontal building, a very horizontal geometry that complemented the character of the memorial, because the memorial itself is the primary concern of this site. So we didn't want to detract from that. We wanted to complement it. So the shape, which is very horizontal, is very different from the verticality of the surrounding skyscrapers, and it helps break up the massive scale of those tall buildings before they hit the ground and enter the character of the memorial itself. And also it's rising up off the ground, so it feels as though the memorial grounds themselves pass through the building in a sense of giving a sense of continuity.
When the memorial opened, September 11th, a couple of years ago, I was invited, and I wasn't even going to go. The president was here, all the dignitaries. It was for the people, for the families. But I said, I'm going to walk, just walk. And I have to tell you, it was the most moving thing. People stopped me because they know me, they know my face. Families of people who lost their loved ones, policemen, firemen. No, thank you, Mr. Libeskin. You delivered what you promised. They didn't say anything else. They shook my hand. I thought that was the best compliment I could get.
So in some ways I think that this tragedy gave a sense of purpose to people that was very positive, and we tried to translate that feeling into this building that we're in today. I think when one confronts a tragedy, it's always a transformative experience, and one goes through stages of understanding. Obviously the first stage is shock, and that's usually followed by a sense of yearning and desire that things would somehow have been different. And then as you move through these cycles intellectually, you realize one day that you are alive and that you have to present the strength of being alive to those around you. And this building is meant to be a part of that cycle. It is not meant to capture the trauma directly. It's meant to allow you to see yourself at a moment in time. And actually, in today's globalized and interconnected world, those ephemeral moments are being lost to us naturally. So we want to recapture those moments to allow us to see ourselves in this moment in time.
One of the most important things was that the High Line, if it's about anything at all, it's about nothing. You know, it's the one place that New Yorkers, a new discovery for New York, can come and actually do nothing, because you can't do anything there. You can't throw balls. You can't. You can't bring your bicycle or your rollerblades, or you can walk. You can sit, and New Yorkers that are always very productive and are filling every moment with their lives, either at work, or if they're not at work, they're burning calories. If they're not burning calories, they're walking their dog, or they're doing something, and it's always, or texting using their devices. But there, you actually can, you're 30 feet up in the air in this very unfamiliar environment. You really kind of let go. And there's one spot on the High Line that is called the Sunken Overlook that goes over 10th Avenue, that frames 10th Avenue, and you can see the headlights, the taillights of cars as they're going uptown. And this is a moment of supreme nothingness. There's really nothing. It's just the street, and it's just the most banal thing that you could possibly imagine. But the public is drawn to it, and they sit there and they stare at it like a fireplace. And to us, it was a profound success that way, because it changed behavior. You know, even if it's for that length of time that people are there. And you know, New Yorkers really love it. So we consider it a success because not only do visitors love it, but it's part of New Yorkers' lives.
And I think what needs to happen now is that architects need to reinsert architecture as something that people are interested in, not just architects, something that is important for society, and that it's not just a stylistic exercise of like redecorating your bathroom. It's literally a question of deciding as a species what kind of world we want to live in.